From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to this week's discussion of Parshat Matot, Who's on First? Now, this week's shiur sponsored loving memory of Bernard and Shirley Frisch by their son, Frank Frisch. Yehi Zichroam Baruch, may their memories be a blessing. If we ask ourselves a question, when it came to the conquest of the land of Israel, who was first? Who's on first? Who was the first one to really take that initiative and be there for the Jewish people, to lead the Jewish people on their way? Which tribe is really the leader of all tribes? Well, we know that in general there's a great challenge, a great confrontation, competition between Yehudah on the one hand, from the tribes of Leah, and Yosef on the other side, sometimes Yosef and or Binyamin from the tribes of Rachel. When we look at the blessings of Jacob, he gives some of the great blessings to Yehudah, but at the same time, he gives some of the great blessings to Yosef. And who's on first throughout Jewish history is always quite interesting to take a look at. If we look in our Parsha, really one of the first conquerors of Israel, on the one hand, is Moshe himself. Moshe is the one who conquers the land from Sichon and Og, from the Transjordan. But on the other hand, if you're looking for a particular warrior, a particular general, actually it's Yair ben Menashe. One of the great heroes, unsung heroes perhaps of the Torah, is Yair ben Menashe. The rabbis say he lived very long. He lived from the time of Yaakov all the way to the time of the war of Ai, the second battle in Israel where he lost his life. But this Yair ben Menashe, he went and he conquered areas in the Gilad. And he and Machir, also from the tribe of Menashe, they were the great conquerors. He's known elsewhere in Tanakh, he's described as an Ish Milchama, a great man of war. Pasuk in Yoshua. So if you ask who's one of the first conquerors of Israel, it's Yair ben Menashe. So it comes from Menashe. Menashe is from the tribes of Joseph. There's even an audacious suggestion. I thank Rabbi Uri Sharaki of Haifa for this source. The students of Reb Saadia Gaon from 1,000 years ago, they say that perhaps he conquered it in the days of Menashe, in the days of Joseph, when Joseph was the leader. He sent this prince to conquer Transjordan on behalf of Egypt, on behalf of the Jewish people. But in any event, Yair was one of the first. However, he wasn't only from Menashe. If you look in Divrei Yamim, if you look in the book of Chronicles, there it lists who is this Yair ben Menashe. And strangely enough, he has an old father, Chetzron, from the family of Yehudah, and his mother is from the family of Menashe. So it turns out that this Yair, although he's from the tribe, he's described as being from Menashe, and perhaps was raised with them, associated with them, he's actually from Yehudah. So who was the first conqueror of Israel? Both a Judean and a Menashe member. Now, if we look at other episodes, we know that when the splitting the sea took place, the famous idea that Nachshon ben Aminadav, the leader of the tribe of Judah, jumped in first. But there is an alternate midrash that says that Binyamin, the tribe of Binyamin as a whole, jumped in first. So again, on this major point of moving forward, marching forward, also a debate as to whether Binyamin from the tribe of Rachel or Nachshon from the tribe of Judah and Leah, who jumped in first. Then there were the Mapilim, the forbidden first conquerors. They were failed conquerors, but they were nonetheless one of the first to march forward to the land of Israel and try to take over. Some say it was Shimon from the tribes, families, from the families of Leah. But A lot of people say that it's really Menashe. They were the ones who lost a lot of people in those battles. Menashe were the ones who were the Mapilim and the Benot Tzlafchad, the daughters of Tzlafchad. They said that he died in his own sin. He was one of the Mapilim, was one of the first conquerors of Israel. And the daughters of Tzlafchad themselves are some of the first to say, hey, we want some land in Israel. So the daughters of Tzlafchad from Menashe are also one of the first conquerors of Israel. It's interesting geographically in the Transjordan, from the eastern perspective, the other side of the Jordan, what we call today the land of Israel, the state of Israel. If you ask who were the first settlers there, well, Yair ben Menashe, he conquered partially the area around Kinneret, the Golan area. And therefore, in some ways, this Yair actually was one of the first conquerors. And because he was partially from Judah, there are verses, and again, I thank Rabbi Sharaki for this point, that is a verse in Joshua 19:34, where it says there's something called Yehudah B'Yisrael. There's something called in the Chamat Yehudah B'Yisrael in Malachim chapter 14, verse 28, Malachim Bet. It says Chamat Yehudah. There are areas in the north that are known and associated with Judah. So yes, Joshua is the first conqueror of Jericho, but even before that, there was an element of Judah from Leah conquering parts of northern Israel that are part of today's, the western part of the Jordan. Now, when Joshua dies, Joshua, of course, from the tribe of Ephraim, from the tribe of Joseph, from Rachel, but when Joshua is gone, so who's going to conquer now? And there we have, it says that they ask God, who's going to go up first? And Hashem says, Yehudah Yaleh, Yehudah should go first. He should be the first one. And of course, Otniel ben Kenaz from the tribe of Judah, he conquered Hebron. Kalev conquered Hebron. You could argue that Kalev and Yoshua, they both were one of the first to go to Israel as positive spies, not these negative ones who didn't want to go, but as spies who were ready to go. And they indeed were from the tribes of Ephraim and Yehudah. They went together, hand in hand. They both were the first to conquer, to come in as conquerors, so to speak, of the land of Israel, marching forward in a positive vein, unlike any of the other tribes. Who was the first king? Well, on the one hand, it's Saul, is from the tribe of Benjamin, but on the other hand, it's also David, is the first real king who has a succession of sorts, and he's from Yehudah, he's from the Leah family. And finally, what about Mashiach? Mashiach comes, will it be from Yosef? Will it be from Yehudah? What's it going to be? The answer, of course, is Mashiach ben Yosef. He comes first. Mashiach from the tribes of Yosef and Rachel. And there's also Mashiach ben David, so trial of David. David's from Judah. David's from Leah. So that even in the end of days, these two groups will be represented. The importance of being first. Yair ben Menashe, this great hero, he was like, the rabbis say he was comparable to more than half of the Sanhedrin. He was like the 36 who hold up the world. The 36, the majority of the Sanhedrin. He was a powerful Torah scholar. He was one of the first. We have to have that passion of the tribe of Menashe, particularly to be first. Sometimes they did first things that were not right, like the breaking of Shabbos. There were certain things associated with Menashe that were first. But Menashe teaches us this lesson of trying to be first, and Yehudah as well. And ultimately, it's not a competition. Ultimately, the idea of Yehudah and Yosef both trying to be first shows our passion, our zeal, like the daughters of Tzlafchad, to take over the land of Israel, to be involved with it, to appreciate it, to love it, and to want to be the very first. Ultimately, every Jew has to be first. We have to go together. Together, Yehudah Ya'aleh, we can go up, we can be Yehudah, we can be Menashe. And to try, with every matter that's good, that's important, try together to be first, not to try to outdo the other fellow, but to be first almost together in doing what's right. Thank you for joining us here today, the Anshe Sfar Beth El congregation. And thanks to Jason Lefkowitz for today's videography. We would like to welcome you to join us here at the Anshe Sfar Beth El in the future, and also to look at our archives of past discussions with Parshiot. Thank you for joining us.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.